Now, the book in question is called Lesbian Genius and was written by a French woman who is also a Paris councilwoman, whose name is Alice Coffin, or as they would say in French, Alice Coffin. She says that she no longer reads books written by men, or watches movies made by men, or listens to music made by, you guessed it, men. How's that working out for ya? What she's describing sounds a little like living in an entire world made up of only Amy Schumer. And maybe her comedy. And maybe that one female-only film of Ghostbusters. It's not enough to help one another. We have to erase them. Erase them from our minds, from our pictures, from our representation. I don't read books by men anymore. I don't watch their movies or listen to their music, she writes. Alice admits she imagined herself as a boy when she was younger, but now believes being a lesbian is a greater achievement. A greater achievement than what? Better than being a man. Duh. Huh. I thought you couldn't choose those. It is also very interesting to me how someone who dresses in a traditionally masculine way wants to erase men. That's also a lot of fun. It is very reminiscent of another book that recently went viral. And this other book is much, much worse. And also from France. What is going on over there? Do you guys need a hug? A baguette? Some fromage? To win a world war? We should have the right to not like men, says the French writer at the center of literary storm. Well, at least they're not hiding it anymore. So this writer basically wrote a book called I Hate Men. Because of course she did. And the book mostly asks whether or not sexism is a way out of oppression, whether or not anger towards men is a joyful and emancipatory path to take, and largely defends misandry and man-hating as liberating. What? Do you have anything to add here? Oh, I don't hate all men. Just the straight white ones. The book was picked up by a small French publisher and has been reprinted several times, and interestingly, picked up by HarperCollins. In fact, this book will be published and appearing on shelves in major stores in January of 2021. Yes, a book called I Hate Men will be appearing on shelves. Now, you guys know me. I don't like censorship, and I'm certainly no authority on when it should be employed or not employed. But, what? I want you to imagine for a moment if a man had written a book called I Hate Women that encourages men to actively hate women. Now, I want you to imagine what that might look like. Publicly. Just for a second. Feminists won't even let movies like The Red Pill be viewed because apparently it's misogynistic. There is no way in the 7 depths of hell that they would ever let a book like that be published, let alone go on the shelves, without someone or many people being decapitated. Figuratively, of course, this is not France. But oh, when it comes to men, the hatred is fine because you're all dirty pig people and rapists and murderers. Yeah. Now, what's really interesting about this story is that the French government actually tried to have this book banned because it incites hatred on the grounds of gender. And they're actually not wrong. And while the book doesn't appear to be calling for violence or anything like that, it is actively telling people to hate men. In the writer's own words, she says, if we are heterosexual, we are encouraged to like men, but we should absolutely have the right to not like them. I realize this sounds like a violent sentiment, but I feel strongly we should be allowed to not love them as a whole and make exceptions for certain men. Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up. Now, I don't want to personally attack these people, even though they're advocating for hating, like, you know, half the population. But I actually really believe that this writer just isn't that smart. In an interview, she says that misogyny is the root of systemic violence and then goes on to cite incorrect statistics about domestic violence. If you're new here, I have made countless videos about domestic violence and the statistics and data that go along with that, which you are more than welcome to check out. But also, and this is perhaps the best part, she goes on to say that misandry, or man-hating, has never killed anyone. Oh, interesting. It hasn't, has it? Is it time for a montage? Is it time for a montage? It's time for a montage.
All right, ahead, a Michigan woman convicted of arson and the murder of her husband is telling her story
after she allegedly poured gasoline on her husband and then set him on fire.
A Lansing man is in critical condition tonight after police say his girlfriend stabbed him.
He says he had one thought.
This woman's gonna kill me.
I know a woman who's trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband.
The damsel of death and the hooker from hell.
Joanne Dennehy went on a killing spree, murdering 3 men and attempting to kill 2 others.
Misandry, or man-hating, has never killed anyone.
Wrong.
Naturally, when I find these super weird, obtuse stories, I want to know how much support is actually behind these ideas. And I mean, in this case, you know, this book sold 2,000 copies and now has been picked up by a major publisher, so, there's that. But man-hating as an idea is not terribly uncommon. And when I went online to sort of gauge the general sentiment about this topic, I found that it wasn't as fringe as I would have liked. I found plenty of articles, comments, and justification for hating men. And I get the sense that a lot of women or feminists really subscribe to the idea that men are the root of all their problems. I do want to add here too that I did find a lot of women and or feminists saying that man-hating is completely not helpful and is not a representation of feminism. So credit where credit's due. A woman sent me a message on Instagram that really stood out to me. I used to be a feminist because I thought it was about empowering women, when in reality, it was about putting down men. I used to hate men and think that the world would be better off without the patriarchy. When I started dating my now husband, my feminist beliefs could have robbed me of this great marriage. I felt guilty for loving him because he was a man. I wasn't okay with PDA because he was a man. A white man at that. I had to unlearn the hate feminism taught me so I could love my husband freely and wholeheartedly. I'm so glad I walked away. And without being tremendously dramatic, I do believe that this sort of sentiment actually encapsulates what modern feminism does to a lot of women, especially if they're reading books that tell them to openly hate men and erase them from their lives.